Good morning. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today is another solo episode. We're gearing up to celebrate our 100th episode. So today we're going to talk about something that I haven't usually brought up, but I really think is critical and important. The topic for today is decision making in business. Now, for the record, this might apply to life as well. Actually, it does apply to life. But one of the things I want to challenge is the current thinking in marketing and sales. And this has been a long time brewing, and I'm a huge fan of Chet Holmes. If you haven't heard of his inverted core story, I think you should go look at his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. I've suspected this, and I really didn't have the math to prove it, but now I can finally see it. So if you look at Chet Holmes and what he talks about, he posits that less than 3% of a population are active buyers for whatever the thing is that you sell. Now, the problem is most marketing and most sales is aimed at that 3%, which is great if you've got a quota and you want to close deals. However, and this is why I bring it up, if you're aimed at that 3%, you're always looking for the next deal because you're hoping to catch somebody's attention right before they buy. And I'll explain how this fits into my world in a second. But if you look at it, 3% are actively buying. Now, there's probably about 7% that are vaguely aware they have the problem that you solve, and they may need to look at it. But most marketing and sales focuses strictly on the assumption that somebody knows they have the problem you solve and they know that you're a good fit for them. So most marketing and sales is about trying to convince somebody to buy something at the moment when they need it. Now, I'm going to be blunt. To me, that just feels like dumb luck if we actually close deals, because we're so narrowly focused, we're not having conversations that will lead to tomorrow's sale. So we're always looking at today's sale, today's sale, today's sale. We never think about tomorrow or the next month or the next quarter. Now, you might think of this as pipeline building or funnel building. I look at it as how do we serve people? So with that bit of context, I'm going to share my thoughts on decision making, and hopefully it shines a little light for the entrepreneurs out there. I hate to break it to you, but people aren't out there actively seeking your product, your service, your widget, your gadget, whatever it is. They have a pain and they're hoping to solve it. So here's the thing. I've seen more deals die because of two competitors that you haven't even considered. So if you're targeting the 3% that's ready to buy today, you've ignored 97% of the market. So the two biggest competitors, whether you know it or not, whether your clients say it or not, there are two competitors that kill more deals than anything else. And believe it or not, they come in, I believe they make up the 97%, because if we're only targeting 3% who are actively buying, there's only 3% of a population at any given point in time evaluating us versus our actual real world competitors. So think about that for a minute. If it feels like clients are hard to find or scarce, it's because you're fighting with everybody else over that 3% that's actively buying. Now, there is a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. I suspect that they came to the same conclusions I have. But here's the thing. So the two competitors that are actually killing more deals than your actual real world physical known competitors, number one is Status Quo. Now, the reason Status Quo matters is that people sit in their pain for a while. They're comfortable enough in their pain that they're not willing to risk the fear and uncertainty and pain of doing something to solve it. So I believe, and again, I have no math on this, but this is just sort of relative terms, roughly 90% of the people out there are stuck in the inertia of status quo. Life as they know it is not bad enough that they're ready to solve the problem. So when we market to that group, we need to help them understand what their problem actually is, what it's costing them to not move, and how painful it actually is. Because again, humans, we have this capacity to gradually get used to pain so that we complain about something, but we never do anything. So I believe status quo is, in fact, responsible for about 90% of the market not moving. So, really, truly, if they don't understand how deep their pain is and how much it's costing them to keep it going, because a lot of people think status quo is a straight line to the future. The reality is there's decay built in. So, over time, we actually are less than we are today if we ignore the status quo and we don't fix things that are broken. So status quo is by far the biggest competitor you face every day when you're doing your marketing and sales effort. Now, the second biggest competitor, and I'm just going to do this so that the math works, is 7%. And this is about do it myself. So the DIY community is huge, but people finally get motivated to act and they say, okay, I can do it myself. Now, the problem with do it myself is people tend to overestimate how easily we can solve the problem ourselves. We tend to miss common problems, common things. And so we've overcome status quo ourselves somehow. Now we're going to try and fix it ourselves because we don't really truly understand the value that an expert can bring to the table. So again, you can challenge my numbers, but really, truly, what I want you to understand is the vast majority of deals, people say, oh, I'd close more if I had more reach. The thing is, big majority are comfortable in status quo. And then you got the smaller pool, which is relatively smaller than status quo, but people are stuck in, I can fix it myself. Now, once we get to that 3% active deciding, then it becomes helping people understand what's important to them in the buying criteria. So I talk about different versions of currency. Most people in their buying criteria, if they don't know how to make a buying decision, they will default to price. So if somebody doesn't know the features or the benefits or the difference, they will look at price. And believe it or not, most won't buy the cheapest thing. They'll buy the middle thing because middle feels safe. So if you're the cheapest, you're going to repel some people because they're going to be, I call it disconcertingly cheap. And then on the high end, if you are the reassuringly expensive, you're the high price, fewer people will choose because they want the safety of the middle road. So that's a little bit of how I analyze the decision-making process. And basically, the good, beautiful news is that, Chet Holmes led the way with this. If we recognize that status quo is a big factor and we help people understand their pain enough to move into the do-it-yourself phase, then we show them how a good helper, a professional, an expert, what have you, can move them to done and solved faster. We actually can access the broader market and we can reach people and help them get ready that aren't even actively buying. And when we manage that life cycle with them, we can actually make it easier for them to hire us. And by setting the criteria and by helping them understand what a good expert looks like, we become the expert of comparison. So everything after us is compared to what we've done. So The good news is there is a massive abundance of clients out there. The bad news is most people are chasing 3% and fighting over 3%. So my question as a entrepreneur, would you rather reach a bigger audience and filter down, or do you want to start narrow and hope you get your criteria and hope you meet your quotas and goals? So this is a bit of a provocative episode, but fair warning, a lot of what we're going to cover going forward is about client attraction and, in my opinion, more importantly, client retention. Because again, why go all to this effort to find new clients if we're not going to keep them? It is much easier, much cheaper, more stable if we find new ways to serve existing clients. So a little controversy there. I'd love your thoughts in the comments, and I look forward to future episodes with you. Thank you.